let's start today by adding those 3 adjectives. And the adjectives I'm choosing are horrifying, shocking, and weird. So I'm going to go ahead and use bullpen for that as well, but I'm going to use uppercase, lowercase to kind of set that apart from my title. And I think for the color, I'm going to grab a lighter color, maybe this looks good. I'm going to grab something in Jasper's Fur here. Okay, and make sure my cap locks is off, and I'll start with horrifying. Remember to check your spelling on these things. As you guys know, Photoshop does not do an automatic spell check, so either check your spelling ahead of time or you can use the spell checker that it does have, although remember it has limited ability. All right, I am on Right Justify, which I want to be for these, and so I'm just going to return and keep typing in my words here. Okay, then Command T and get these placed. Okay, and I think while I'm here, I'm going to add a drop shadow to my adjectives, and I think I'll go back and add the same drop shadow to my title there. So going to my layer styles, which is the FX button, I'm going to drop shadow, and I have mine set currently at default, and it adds something. So if I take preview off, you can watch it. It goes from that to that. So it's very subtle, and I think I like that. I don't think I want to get too crazy, especially on these words. Now on the title, you could get a little bit crazier. Now, even though I've rasterized my title, you can still add a layer style. So keep that in mind. It does not have to be a text layer. A layer style can be applied to a raster layer or a text layer. Doesn't matter. Okay, so now on this, if I wanted to get a little bit crazier with the distance and the size, I could do that because this is my title. And remember, the B-movie titles are usually pretty crazy. And some of them have quite a large drop shadow on them, or stroke. And you could try a stroke too. So just play with that and get it however you want without being too crazy. But you want the title to look good, but you can get a little bit more assertive with this. You could take it off multiply and try it on normal, which might give it a little bit more of a bold look. And you could play around with that angle too. Okay, and I think I'll keep it right there. Okay, and then we also today want to go ahead and put in that technology advertisement. So let's look at a few things. I'm going to save this and we'll look at a few things. Okay, so Color by Technicolor was something that was really popular on the movie posters, on actually all movie posters back in this era, because before they had color, people would watch black and white movies. And so color was a big thing back then. And so if you saw this, people would actually look for this, Color by Technicolor, because then they knew they were watching a color movie, film, cartoon, or whatever, as opposed to a black and white one. Now, back in the time when Color by Technicolor became widely used, they didn't really have a logo, so to speak. This one that you're seeing here is more modern. Okay, so that's more of a modern one. But if we look at these old versions, you'll notice that the font is always changing. It's never really consistent. That was true with a couple of these technologies back then. They really didn't have a font or a logo for their company. So it was up to the movie studios to decide how they wanted to display this on their posters. So you'll look at this one's really different than this one. They're all just very different. One thing I am noticing though is that the color by is in lowercase and Technicolor is almost in full uppercase. So we can use that. If you look at this one up here, the color by is lowercase, but it's also in a script style or cursive font. Okay, so that's a little bit different than the other ones that we're seeing. All right, so let's look at a couple of other things. These are some actual CinemaScope logos, or not really logos, but these were off of actual movie posters, or maybe they showed at the beginning of the movie. They were actually screenshotted from the movies. And you'll notice again, like the color by Technicolor, that these all look a little bit different. One thing about them is that the C is big and the end of this one has 55. That's a special thing, but like, let's look at this one. The C is big and the E at the end is big, but the lettering gets smaller towards the center, except the S then becomes big again. So I've seen that a lot with this, but I haven't seen an actual logo that they use. This font is a lot different than what's going on this one. Okay, so it changes. So that's something to keep in mind, but it does have this very 3D look to it. Okay, other things like Cinerama, that was a way to film with a widescreen and a higher resolution. That did have this particular font. I will put this on My Connect for anybody that wants to use it. So that was another technology of the time that was advertised on the movie posters. Panavision was also a popular one. Again, this one had a registered trademark, so I will go ahead and put that on My Connect for you guys. And this one, Super Technorama 70, I found a logo for. So if you're wanting to use any of those, there are logos available, and I will make those available for you. Otherwise, you may just end up typing it out, which is what I'm going to do. Another common one back from the time was stereophonic sound. And stereophonic sound, again, is the one that doesn't really have a logo, so to speak, so you would just type it out. Okay, but I'm going to be using In Color by Technicolor. And I'm going to get away from bullpen for this. I'm going to use just a more common font. We'll try Arial Black to start with. And I do want to make this yellow. And I'll type that down here. I'm going to center justify that. And I forgot to make Technicolor in all caps. That's important. That's one thing that we did notice about that. And I will size and place this. Remember to keep your text at least 1/4 inch from the edges. Okay, and I will not put a drop shadow on that. I think the yellow serves well to have that stand out nicely. So that is going to be it for today. So we're going to File, Save, and we have one more tutorial on this where we're going to be adding in the movie credits.